Hi, this is Justin Patton from the Faculty Development Center, and the workshop today is capturing quality audio and video. We're going to be talking about some of the processes that we can use to get the best possible audio and the best possible video, within reason, to our students. Now, you have to keep in mind that our students see professionally produced audio and video all the time, and no, we're not going to be able to compete with that from our offices. But we can avoid some of the pitfalls and some of the really well-known mistakes that tend to almost be comical when it comes to an amateur producing audio and video. And do keep in mind that the better that you can look when you make your video, the more you're going to enjoy making videos. So we'll talk about some things that are simply cosmetic, and yet they may be distractions if we ignore them. So it's worth looking at the techniques involved in getting the best possible product to the students so they can learn. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the famous selfie. Here's a picture of a lady taking a selfie, and of course, as you may notice, you've seen students do this perhaps as you walk around. Maybe you've done it yourself. There's actually a technique to it. She's raising her camera up higher than her head because this angle is more flattering. Now, if you think about it, when we are using our laptops and maybe even our built-in webcams on our laptops, the angle tends to be the exact opposite of this. The angle usually with a laptop camera is shooting up from below your head. And this is a less flattering image. And we can take a look at this right here. Here is a girl taking two different angles, one from below, one from above. And also she has her smile, of course, and a smile always helps you out. Yeah, I even go so far as to smile before I start doing an audio recording in the hopes that I can have a little bit of that come through the audio, even if my camera's not on. So here you see that she has a much more flattering image with the camera raised, and she's looking up into it versus down at her laptop. Now, how do you do this? Well, there are a few ways to do it. Sometimes you have to readjust your workspace. You maybe stack some books under your laptop, or you drop your chair a little bit lower. If you're going to be producing a video, you do want to think about getting that in a flattering angle. And here again, we see an example of someone who is just standing over their laptop looking down at it, and you can imagine what type of angle that will give the viewer, versus someone who has the laptop up a little higher and they're sitting down a little lower, and he's got some light right on his face. And this may be one of the things that is hard to do in an office situation, but if you can find a way to give yourself some direct light, there's just a much higher quality feel about a well-lit video. Something else to consider with video is your background. Usually, the less busy a background, the better. Now, we don't all have backdrops to shoot video up against, but it is good to at least take a look at what is behind you. And if you can simplify it by changing which wall you're shooting against, go ahead and go for it. Also, be aware of the things that may be behind you. In this case, we have some sensitive information that should not be out there. In some cases, it might not be your password, but it could be a list of students or something else that you just don't want being out there for everybody to see. One of the ancient rules of video was don't wear stripes. This is not quite as important as it used to be with high-def cameras, but it's still a good principle. Solid colors will tend to do better than stripes. And you'll see in this example that there are some squiggly lines versus something that's a little bit more solid, looking a little bit better. Another thing to consider, if you have a white shirt, that's probably not the best choice because of the overexposure of the video. The brightest thing will always be the brightest thing. And really, you'd prefer for your face to be the focal point of attention. So one way to do that is to wear darker colors that will allow your face to be the lightest color in your wardrobe. Conversely, if everything else around you is pitch black, that can be distracting as well. A black shirt with a black background, unless you're doing it for a very good reason, is probably a no-no. The better choice is a lighter background that will allow your body to pop out from the background. And that way we don't feel like your face is the blazing sun. There's not too much contrast. Here we have an example of gentle light versus harsh light. In the left side, we have a more natural look. The light is not casting such harsh shadows, and this can be done sometimes by accident if you just aim a lamp directly at yourself, it's not the end of the world, but it certainly looks better if you use softer light. So you might turn the lamp around and bounce it off of a wall, or at least play with the angle so that you're not creating harsh shadows. And now we're getting kind of picky, but if you want to go this far, it makes sense to consider what type of reflection you're getting off of your glasses. That can also be distracting, especially if it's really bad or if you're moving around flashing the camera with your glasses. Now, up to this point, we've just talked about the use of a laptop camera or a webcam. It is obviously easier to move a webcam around, something that plugs into your laptop with a USB cable, as opposed to the entire laptop itself. So if you're going to be making lots of videos, it might make sense to invest in an inexpensive webcam that will be easier to move. When it comes time to record audio, this is another instance where if you're just using your laptop, then you've got to be close to your laptop. The mics that are on board most laptops will do the job, but you need to be close to them. You don't want to be 6-7 feet away. Just like with a camera, it may be more flexible to use a separate webcam so that you don't have to move the entire laptop up and down. It might be more flexible for you to use a USB microphone, and you can place that much, much closer to your mouth and get a very dry, direct, present sound like the one that I'm using, where the microphone is about 2 or 3 inches away from my face. And as I move back from it, you can tell that very quickly you start losing a lot of detail and presence, and you also get a lot more room sound when I'm far away from the microphone. So I'm going to come back to it, and this is usually how I will do voiceovers. One thing people don't often think about is if you are stuck with just using your laptop for the microphone, then you have to think about not only the angle of video that you're capturing with your laptop, but also the proximity to the voice. And sometimes you have to move that thing, especially if you're going to be doing a conference call, for instance, and you've got 3 or 4 people. You kind of want to get those folks circled around the laptop as close as they can get, because that's going to give them the best reception for the microphone. And last but not least, look around. Get online and see what people have done, and see what types of things that you like, and try to figure out how you can emulate those things. There may be people who have a delivery style that seems much more similar to yours, something that is more natural for you versus someone else. And so if you find someone that sounds a little bit like you sound, or presents themselves a little bit the way that you present yourself, that can be a great person to model your productions after. It's always a great idea to have a target to shoot for, and sometimes those types of things can really help carry over into the classroom as well. Because obviously, if you're watching your own videos and critiquing them and trying to improve them, there may be things that you will take back over into the classroom and present yourself in a different way in front of your class as well. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email, jpatton@murraystate.edu. I'd be happy to show you around a couple of our audio and video studios and show you some of the tools that we have that you might be interested in using yourself. Thanks.